It started as a port. What became one of the most beloved Zelda games in franchise history, a melancholic masterpiece about dreams, loss, and saying goodbye, began development as a straightforward port of A Link to the Past for the Game Boy. Just a technical exercise to see if the SNES adventure could squeeze onto Nintendo's handheld. But somewhere during lunch breaks and after-hours tinkering, the unauthorized side project evolved into something completely different, something deeply personal, something influenced by Twin Peaks and filled with Mario characters for no reason other than the developers thought it would be fun. These 10 retro facts reveal how Link's Awakening almost didn't exist, why it features Goombas fighting alongside Octoroks, and how a game about waking up became the series' most haunting meditation on what it means to let go. Fact number 1. Link's Awakening began as an unauthorized port project developed during lunch breaks and after hours. According to various developer interviews, the core development team started working on a portable Zelda game during their lunch breaks and after hours, essentially creating it in secret without official approval from Nintendo management. The project began as an experiment to see if they could port A Link to the Past to the Game Boy hardware. The team wanted to understand the technical limitations and possibilities of bringing the SNES adventure experience to Nintendo's handheld console. This grassroots development approach meant the team had creative freedom to experiment without corporate oversight dictating design choices or demanding the game follow specific formulas. They could make something weird, personal, and different from what Zelda games were expected to be. Eventually, when the project showed promise, it received official backing and grew into a full production under the direction of Takashi Tezuka, with story and script created by Yoshiaki Koizumi and Kensuke Tanabe. Fact number 2. Director Takashi Tezuka wanted the game to feel like the television series Twin Peaks. This wasn't subtle inspiration. Tezuka explicitly stated that Twin Peaks' surreal atmosphere, mysterious setting, and unclear boundaries between dream and reality should permeate Link's Awakening. That influence appears everywhere. Koholint Island operates by dream logic, where nothing is quite what it seems. Characters break the fourth wall, acknowledging they're in a video game. Nintendo characters from completely different franchises appear without explanation. The entire narrative revolves around uncertainty about what's real and what's illusion, mirroring Twin Peaks' own obsession with layered realities and hidden truths. Even the game's melancholic tone and bittersweet ending reflect Twin Peaks' refusal to provide simple answers or happy resolutions. This deliberate artistic influence from prestige television was unusual for video games in 1993, demonstrating the team's ambition to create something more emotionally complex than typical adventure game narratives. Fact number 3. The game featured Mario characters because the developers thought it would be fun, not for any strategic reason. Goombas, Chain Chomps, Piranha Plants, Boo Buddies, a Yoshi doll, and even a photograph of Princess Peach appear throughout Link's Awakening. These weren't Easter eggs. They were full enemies and characters integrated into gameplay. During development, the team felt free to experiment because the project started as an unofficial side endeavor. They borrowed assets, tested ideas, and played around with Nintendo's catalog of characters without worrying about franchise purity or canon consistency. When asked why Mario enemies appeared in a Zelda game, developers essentially explained they had fun adding them and thought players would enjoy the surreal crossover. This cavalier attitude toward franchise boundaries reflected the game's dream logic. In dreams, anything can appear, and normal rules don't apply. The Mario cameos reinforced that Koholint Island wasn't bound by the same reality as Hyrule, making the eventual revelation that everything is a dream feel more earned. Fact number 4. Link's Awakening was the first Zelda game to feature the trading sequence that became a series staple. The game introduced a chain quest where Link exchanges items between NPCs to eventually receive a critical item, in this case, the magnifying lens to read invisible text. Unlike later games where trading sequences became optional side content, Link's Awakening's trading sequence was mandatory to complete the game. Players had to navigate a complex chain of trades, Yoshi doll to ribbon, to dog food, to bananas, to stick, to honeycomb, to pineapple, to hibiscus, to letter, to broom, to fishing hook, to necklace, to scale, to finally the magnifying glass. This lengthy sequence forced players to talk to NPCs, explore towns thoroughly, and pay attention to dialogue clues about who wanted what. The concept proved popular enough that trading sequences appeared in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Oracle games, and numerous subsequent entries, though they became optional rather than required. Fact number 6. Nintendo sponsored a cross-country train competition called the Zelda Whistle Stop Tour to promote the North American release. This event, which lasted 3 days, allowed selected players to test Link's Awakening in a timed race to complete the game while riding trains across the country. The event wasn't just about showcasing the new Zelda adventure. Nintendo wanted to demonstrate the Game Boy's superior battery life and portability. The train setting emphasized that players could experience complex, lengthy adventures anywhere, not just at home near power outlets. This portability was critical to the game's success. Link's Awakening proved that handheld Zelda titles could deliver experiences comparable to console entries, encouraging other developers to create ambitious handheld titles like Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, Phantom Hour, Spirit Tracks, and A Link Between Worlds. Nintendo Power also published a guide to the game's first 3 areas in its July 1993 issue, building anticipation before the August release. Fact number 7. The game sold 4 million copies worldwide and boosted Game Boy sales 13% in 1993. Upon release, Link's Awakening became a commercial phenomenon. In Japan, it topped the Famitsu sales chart in June 1993. In North America, it was the top-selling Game Boy game in August 1993. The game's success helped revitalize the Game Boy platform, which had been on the market since 1989 but faced increasing competition from Sega's Game Gear and other handheld systems. Link's Awakening demonstrated that complex, story-driven adventures could succeed on portable hardware, encouraging other developers to create ambitious handheld titles. It won multiple awards, including Best Game Boy Game of 1993 from Electronic Gaming Monthly, and all 5 main categories in the 1993 Nintendo Power Awards: Graphics and Sound, Challenge, Theme and Fun, Play Control, and Best Overall. The critical and commercial success validated Nintendo's decision to bring major franchises to portable platforms rather than reserving them exclusively for consoles. Development proceeded directly following completion of Kaeru no Tame ni Kane wa Naru, a Japan-only Game Boy title. That game, whose title translates to For the Frog, the Bell Tolls, featured a similar graphical style with cartoon-like sprites and comic-style frames for cutscenes. Link's Awakening borrowed and refined the engine from Kaeru no Tame ni Kane wa Naru, allowing the team to build on proven technology rather than starting from scratch. This connection was acknowledged in-game through the character Richard, who appears in Link's Awakening, and is the rival character from Kaeru no Tame ni Kane wa Naru. Richard's villa, Canalet Castle, and the Golden Leaves quest all reference the previous game. This represents an early example of Nintendo creating a shared universe, or at least acknowledging connections between different properties.
The technical foundation from Kaeru no Tame ni Kane wa Naru allowed the Link's Awakening team to focus on content creation and storytelling rather than solving basic engine problems. Fact number 8. The perfect ending differs between the original and DX versions, with Marin's fate remaining deliberately ambiguous. Players who complete Link's Awakening without dying even once unlock a special ending scene after the credits. In the original Game Boy version, Marin appears with wings on her back, flying around the words "The End" while apparently singing. In Link's Awakening DX for Game Boy Color, this becomes a full color image, showing Marin clearly before the image fades into a seagull that flies away. The 2019 Nintendo Switch remake animates Marin's image slightly. She briefly closes her eyes and shudders in an apparent giggle before fading away with a seagull flying past. The implication across all versions remains deliberately unclear. Did Link's perfect playthrough somehow allow Marin to transcend the dream and achieve her wish of becoming a seagull? Did the windfish grant her existence beyond the dream? Or is this simply Link's desperate hope, his imagination refusing to accept she's truly gone? Nintendo never clarified the canonical interpretation, leaving players to decide what they believe. Fact number 9. The game's music was composed by Kazumi Totaka, Minako Hamano, and Kozue Ishikawa, with Koji Kondo serving as sound advisor. Totaka, Hamano, and Ishikawa created one of the most memorable soundtracks in Game Boy history, despite the hardware's severe audio limitations. The Ballad of the Windfish became an iconic melody that players still hum decades later. The overworld theme perfectly captures the game's sense of adventure, tinged with melancholy. Each dungeon features distinct musical themes that enhance atmosphere. Kondo's involvement as sound advisor ensured the music met Zelda's high standards, despite being developed by composers newer to the franchise. Totaka also famously hid Totaka's song, his signature musical Easter egg, somewhere in Link's Awakening's code, though players debate exactly where and how to trigger it. For the DX version, Yuichi Ozaki arranged the music to take advantage of the Game Boy Color's enhanced audio capabilities. Fact number 10. Link's Awakening won more Game Boy awards than any other title in 1993 and influenced future Zelda design philosophy. Electronic Gaming Monthly awarded it Best Game Boy Game of 1993. Nintendo Power Readers voted it the winner in Graphics and Sound, Challenge, Theme and Fun, Play Control, and Best Overall categories for the Game Boy. In 1997, Electronic Gaming Monthly ranked it the 28th best console video game of all time, noting it beat out the Super NES Zelda in both size and scope, despite being on portable hardware. The game proved multiple concepts that would define future entries. Zelda stories could explore melancholic and emotionally complex themes, the series didn't need Ganon or the Triforce to tell compelling narratives, and adventures could take place entirely outside Hyrule while still feeling authentically Zelda. Majora's Mask learned from Link's Awakening that weird, surreal, bittersweet stories resonated with players. The Oracle games embraced Link's Awakening's willingness to experiment with structure. Even Breath of the Wild's emphasis on player freedom and environmental storytelling echoes Link's Awakening's trust in players to discover truth through exploration. These 10 retro facts paint a picture of Link's Awakening as a game that succeeded precisely because it started as a passion project rather than a mandated sequel. The team began by tinkering during lunch breaks, experimenting without corporate pressure, and ultimately creating something more personal and emotionally resonant than a straightforward Zelda sequel would have been. Takashi Tezuka's Twin Peaks inspiration gave the game its surreal atmosphere. The Mario character cameos emphasized dream logic and creative freedom. The technical foundation from Kaeru no Tame ni Kane wa Naru allowed rapid development. The 3-day train tour showcased Game Boy's portability advantages. The commercial and critical success, 4 million copies sold, 13% boost to Game Boy sales, multiple Game of the Year awards, validated risks Nintendo and the development team took. Making a Zelda game without Ganon, Zelda appearing only in name, or the Triforce could have alienated fans. Setting the entire adventure outside Hyrule broke franchise conventions. The bittersweet ending where Link saves himself by destroying an entire world of sentient beings provided no traditional triumph. Yet players embraced Link's Awakening precisely because it dared to be different. The game's legacy extends beyond sales figures and awards. Link's Awakening demonstrated that handheld Zelda titles could match console quality. It proved the franchise could experiment with tone, setting, and narrative without losing its identity. It introduced mechanics like trading sequences and fishing that became series staples. It showed Nintendo that emotional complexity and ambiguous endings resonated with audiences. The Perfect Ending's deliberate ambiguity about Marin's fate sparked debates that continue 30 years later, demonstrating how effectively the game engaged players emotionally. Most importantly, Link's Awakening taught Nintendo that sometimes the best creative work emerges from freedom rather than direction. From passion projects started during lunch breaks rather than mandated sequels designed by committee. The game began as unauthorized tinkering, evolved into something deeply personal and strange, and ultimately became one of the franchise's most beloved entries. That's not just good fortune. That's evidence that trusting talented creators to follow their instincts produces better results than forcing them to repeat proven formulas. 30 years after release, Link's Awakening remains emotionally powerful. The revelation that Koholint Island is a dream still hits hard. Marin's wish to become a seagull still tugs at hearts. The final scene of Link adrift in the ocean, the only person who will ever remember an entire world, still provokes reflection about memory, loss, and the price of freedom. These 10 retro facts explain how that emotional power came to exist, not through careful corporate planning, but through a team of developers who started experimenting during lunch breaks, borrowed an engine from an obscure Japan-only game, threw in some Mario enemies for fun, and accidentally created a masterpiece about what it means to wake up from a beautiful dream knowing everyone in it has disappeared.